Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. Um, I want to introduce you to the Meet the Influencer series, which is a series co-created by our 1 million Leaders Fellows of India. And my name is Nehal, and on behalf of all the 1 million leaders representatives, I welcome you all to the session and a bit about the series, how we thought about the series being a co-creative space where we can inspire as well as be inspired by our guest speakers and coming in, every week. So, it's designed to create a community of young aspiring leaders as well as experienced influential role models, as many of you all, in this large spectrum of sustainability, where we all can gather to listen, share, and have authentic dialogues on various thematic areas, right? And their intersectionalities, and most importantly, again, to create an inspiring network of leaders. So thank you all for being here today. We have Naghma Abidi. She's the program director of one of the program directors of the Indian School of Development Management, who will be talking about helping youth follow their purpose and live a conscious meaning. Sorry, I mean, this is about, she's actually just let's listen to her. Yeah. And we have also Basanta Shrestha, former director of ICIMOD, um, who will be speaking in the second half. So without further ado, I just want you guys to let's listen to Nagma. Uh, yeah, take it over.
Nagma ma'am, just a minute. Champions, I would like to request those whose network is allowing themselves, please switch on your cameras. It will be great to see you interacting with these great people. So looking forward to this interactive session. Thank you so much, Nagma ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Shravani. I understand that this is the biggest challenge that we are when we are online to inspire people to switch on videos. But let me tell you that since COVID, this struggle has been on, but it really just inspires whoever is interacting, whether they're speaking or whether they're just in the room, to have a name and a face. And Of course, it is also inspiring to be here. So thank you, Nihal, for inviting me. And Really, I'm looking forward to this interaction. I know that Nihal set up the context as that this is going to be a space where I'm going to talk about my experiences. But really, I think I don't have much that I can share. The only thing that I can talk about is little bit of experience that I would bring about in this space, and would also like in that limited time to hear some thought process, certain insights that young people these days have gathered from their own work. Because ultimately, it is just a fallacy to assume that only people who have gray hair or have been in the sector have experience and value add. So on that note, this we have conceptualized as a conversation, not as a non-stop lecture from my side. So please use the chat box for questions, any insights, any observations, because that will make it meaningful for all of us. I'll just set up a context, and then Nehal is just going to share certain prompts to make it meaningful for everyone here. So name, all of you already know. I'm sure there must have been slight profile shared with everyone, so you know about the basic thing that I do currently. Social media is great. If you are a little bit more curious, then obviously everything is on social media, whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn, then slightly more details are there as well. So I am not going to touch on something which is already there on social media. I'm going to unravel and make explicit certain aspects which I think are embedded, they are implicit in my experience, and this opportunity I'm looking at as making that experience shareable so that some things can be taken away for all of you. So from known to unknown, my background is in clinical psychology and educational psychology. And one of the things that I would want to share is that psychology as a discipline was something that I chose because I wanted to. You know, a lot of us are forced by circumstances or by our parents that this is the discipline that you pick up. But luckily, I chose something which interested me. And that interest really came in from my own personal experiences where I was seeing mental health issues very close to myself, my family, and I figured, why is this happening? So that question as to if it enters into your mind as to why a certain thing is happening, what is making a person behave in a certain manner, that I think is the cue and something that requires nurturing. So never question that question, you know, that comes into your mind, because that's the path that will take you ahead. And let me tell you, this is one decision that I have never regretted. Picking up because I wanted to, I was interested. So whatever hard work and whatever it has been a hard and it has taken both mental effort also to be in that space. And some of you who have experience of working in the mental health space would also recognize that it's not easy. Whether as a professional or in a personal space, if you're working with people, then it is a draining space and takes a lot from you, right? So I would say that I've never regretted the choice of discipline. And that is one thing which is my first drop of wisdom. Never regret. Pick a choice, make a choice of something that that you're interested in, because that is something that will take you forward. You will never regret 24 hours working in that area, right? You're sleeping and eating, drinking, everything in that, and you're breathing that space, right? So that fuels you. So academically, I took, you know, all the technical understood concepts, did my you know, my block work in the hospital. But I soon realized that working in clinical psychology was also a little difficult because that did not really answer the questions that I had in mind. If somebody has already been set up, there are certain circumstances within the family or in social system, then you cannot really intervene. So it has to be the preventive space. And that was the first major milestone, one after choosing the discipline, that what aspect of the career that you would want to pick up, curative or preventive, right? And this is a dilemma that all of us experience as to which direction should we go into. And every direction is okay, because ultimately you're working for the larger goal. So everyone is required. There are people who are needed in curative space. There are people who are required to work at individual space. There are people who are required to be in policy level. So every work, every person matters if we know which direction that we are going towards, right? So, and that's how I got into Prava, my first organization of work. And that was the journey of starting to work with young people. And in different ways, I have stayed on, I continue to, and in whatever way that I can till whatever time, I think this is one group that I have chosen and I would like to work on. So that's a very brief thing, and I'm going to open up and invite Nehal to ask away the questions so that it is slightly focused. Otherwise, being a teacher, I can go on, right? And I don't want to. I said I will not bore you. So
Yeah, thanks so much, Naghma. I mean, I mean, the way you've set up the context and how you've introduced yourself through psychology, the counseling bit. I think it's important for all of us as leaders. And so the first question, like, I just want to add on to what you're saying and go with the flow is, in all your experiences in the youth development sector, across many organizations, in fact. Uh, we would love to hear more about you and some highlights of your experiences in the sector. So yeah, I will also put it in the chat box
okay.
for people. Yeah.
So let me see. I can just so I left the the brief when I handed over to Nihal was with Prava, right? And Prava has been is an organization that works with young people based out of Delhi, but it is working across nations. And all of you should check out the work if you haven't. Um, that organization has been instrumental in the way that I look at youth work. And I have grown with it. You know, when you join an organization and you grow with the organization, not in terms of years, but more in terms of the ups and downs, the depth of experience that you have with the team, with the people with whom that organization is working with, then you learn a lot. So, technically, my work is in design and facilitation, but it is about what I've learned. What is it to interact and create spaces for young people to flourish? When I and flourish is a term that I have absorbed and adapted and sort of taken the ownership of very recently, primarily because of whatever years of deliberation and engagement. But at that time, it used to be like active citizenship, you know, where young people, whatever be the area, it doesn't matter. If young people are aware, they're sensitive, then whichever space they will occupy, they will bring about that change. So my work was with college youth, and that is what was inspiring, you know, seeing these young people trying to make a difference, trying to be sensitive, trying to make a difference, bring a difference, not just thinking about academics and themselves. Right? Along the journey, I also found that there's nothing really wrong with even people who want to pursue their academics. You know, engineers who are doing a 5-year program, there's nothing wrong in taking that ahead and being engineers working in firms, industry, then going ahead to do an MBA. Nothing wrong with it, because if people are engaged with early on, these engineers are going to be sensitive. They're going to construct, they're going to be in a decision-making space, and the decisions that they make will be connected with not they hopefully will be not just about themselves, but it will be about the larger community, larger society. And that's what we need. So this connection between I and we was something that I was basically working on. So day in and out, it was that struggle of talking to young people, getting them on board, designing sessions, asking them to go and visit the villages of India, spending time, use the summer vacation, not going to the hill stations or do while away, you know, great vacations, but look at vacations in a different manner. So give your time to organizations which are at grassroots, contribute to those organizations, know what a village in India is like, know their reality. And once you're exposed to that, you will change. There is no doubt about it. When you interact with an individual who's diverse, who's different from you, that person doesn't have to say much. You change, right? And that was one of the first things that I changed, because young people were going to the field and came back and they were sharing. So I may not have been the direct person who's going to the field, but I had to interact with those organizations. I had to create that experience with the grassroots organizations. Therefore, I was changing as well. After years of working, um, that's when I realized that, um, just being in that space is not enough. You still don't know. There's a lot more that you don't know. You need to work on yourself as well. So therefore, I went in for my further studies, um, and then came back. Coming back is essential. Investing in your learning is important because you're a lifelong learner. There's no, um, you should not be fearful that, okay, my years have gone. Now we also have a luxury that you can take a break here. Young people right now have a lot of privileges. Sometimes that privilege also becomes like a burden because so many choices, it's very difficult to pick up. Sometimes it's easy when you have parents telling you do 1, 2, 3, and you just have 1 or 2 options. If you have multiple options, the responsibility is also huge. So one has to understand that, right? It's not easy to be a young person in this day and time. So I came back and joined the organization back, Prabha. But one thing that I realized was I am no longer going to work standard 9 to 6 job. Okay. I am not going to get defined by this. I am going to do what I enjoy. Remember, I picked up psychology because I was interested in it. So my choice of work style was also, and this is something which not everyone can do, but it pays. Not everyone can do. That means that you're making a choice, right? And choice has consequences, because when you pick up something that you're interested in, then there may be financial costs, there might be certain social responsibilities that are at a cost, and it is a cost of also what is it that you can do. So I came back and I decided I will do things that that are meaningful and does not restrict myself into the boundary of time. I was asking for trouble because now I was no longer working 9 to 6, but beyond it. So when you are passionate, then you have to also work hard. You should be ready for working hard, right? So that was my life lesson. And that is something which is another thing for me. And then through my coming back, that was another avatar in Prava, where I was no longer working directly with young people, but now I was working mostly with organizations led by young people, working with young people and on different issues. So it's a different avatar, right? Because it requires you not to be at a forefront. You're never a forefront when you're working with young people, but on the spectrum, working directly is slightly different from working with people who are leading organizations, because you have to be their support system. These are people who are risk takers, who are tentative, who are passionate, and they require somebody who believes in them. And therefore, that was the role that I decided. And obviously, that's also with age, right? With a certain bit of experience. Now you also can't consider yourself as a young person. Though at heart, you can always consider, but it really doesn't work like that. So then I started working with other organizations as a part of a change loan program, and working with youth clubs across the country. And then I gained another mantra that if it hits your heart, then it will also hit other stakeholders, whether it is whether it is funders, whether it is family, because your heart is touched. The story that you bring about a young person who is bringing about a change in some remote village of Jhabua, which is a district in uh, Rajasthan, because you've lived that person, you have interacted with that person, you become the voice of that person, because that person may not be able to be in front of the funder. You have those competencies. So it is also then your responsibility of creating space and creating opportunities for that young person. Right? So recognizing where your skill set lies is a deep responsibility. Being a support system in whatever way you can is a deep responsibility. And the moment you recognize that, then there is a lightness to it, but there's also gravity that comes into your work. So that's when I also started my association with another organization, which is called Ruburu. It is based out of Hyderabad, and it was started by a couple of young people who were um, passionate, similar work, youth work, but they needed support system, right? They needed somebody that we want to do something, we want to initiate something, and we need people to be and stand with us and just be. And strangely, I'm sure a lot of you fellows will recognize, you may be passionate, but it's one, that person in your life who believes in you, gives you all the energy and motivation to do whatever you can take the risk, but you need that one person, and that support system is valuable, right? So I joined in this whole team. Now we are a set of friends, right? And friendships that are forged when you're working together, ups and downs, is really great. And then, so Ruburu, I became a founder board member. The journey has continued. Now we're transitioning to the second leadership. So now the responsibility is that supporting that transition. The people who are leading. Now, as a person who is part of the board, my job is to ensure that the second line comes up and takes over the work that has gone on, so that it doesn't get affected, right? And the second line leadership is also of young. So people move. It's youth leadership that continues. The third organization was in Had Anhad, a different kind of Raftar. Again, same principle. People need support, and you need to recognize where is it that you can contribute best. So this Had Anhad is based out of Indore. Again, friends, working with young people. So I see my role as a person who can ask questions, who can support an organization. I don't do too much of work. There's a variation. As I said, spectrum, you join in. And then now, after all this work, I said, I need to figure out another avatar. And that's when I joined ISDM. I'm back at a space where I'm working with young people who plan to enter development sector. And that, I think, is a critical role, because I only see my role as getting people to recognize what is important. And I am probably picking up a lot of things that we said we're going to pick up, but essentially get them started off at the right note. That's important. And get them to be in a space where they can recognize that you have a circle of strength who will be there with you and you be there for them. That's it about the organizations. I mean, years of experience, also multiple organizations. So sorry about taking too much, but that's the landscape. Over to you, Nihal.
Thank you, Naghma. Moving on, I mean, you have covered a little bit of it in your conversation and your talk also. But when you talk about when you were talking about your journey about youth, the current times, that's when like the following question also uh talks about why is it that you think it's important to work with young people in the current times, and what made you want to work in the youth development space in the first place. So yeah, it's a little.
Why youth space? I've already shared a bit of it.
Yeah.
But why current space? I do want to take a little bit of time. I think it's very important in the current times, because whether it is India or whether it is across the world, there are a lot of challenges that all of us are facing, right? I'm part of the generation that is probably also have contributed, and I don't want to be the one who sort of in cliche way saying it's the young people, it is whose responsibility of bringing about the change for all the mess that we have created, right? Each generation has to take the responsibility for making sure that whether we can um, slow down the destruction that may come in, increase the hope that still exists, right? Just the fact that young people are still able to call out, whether it is decision makers at different levels, there is still hope. It's not such a bad scenario. So the young people have that energy. There is an idealism that fuels that passion. When you grow old, there are these other responsibilities that come in, which even then people do take on in their own sphere. And as I started off, everyone has an important role. Whether you're 50, whether you're 60, it doesn't matter. You can still contribute, right? You just have to recognize that who contributes in what way. And if we don't work with young people, and if we don't invest, then the worry is that the generation that is moving ahead, who's going to carry forward? It's the young people who's going to invest in the next generation. We are not going to be there, right? So this transference of hope can only happen if there are hopeful people. If there and there are competing things that young people are facing. So people who are thinking about climate, who are thinking about violence, diversity, there's just so many issues that are happening because of global global knowledge or globalization and access to media. We know what is happening in the world, and a lot of um, things that sort of keep you grounded is that young people are protesting, they are standing, and so therefore the energy needs to be there, right? And it's really great when you have like young people who sort of say that, okay, I am doing this because I want to, right? And because I feel for something. So anyone who gets fueled by that passion. So that's why I think um, any young generation needs to be nurtured, needs to be supported. So right now it's OMLAS Fellows. But when these fellows graduate and move forward, there's going to be another set of OMLAS Fellows. So the responsibility will be on the alums to invest and spread, So it's a huge circle of strength whenever we invest in young people, right? Invest, work with. And you also get energized, right? Like when I'm working and listening to young people, I I learn everything new. Evident, I learn about it, right? So it's a great give and take. That's it.
Thanks. Yeah. Moving on to the next. You know, you talked about being like your journey about like how you first directly work with the young people, and then then slowly got into deeper into the ecosystem, playing and with respect to that, you have like played an influential role as a catalyst yeah, in some way or another in different avatars that you talked about. So like uh, for instance, as a founder board member, like how does this orbital role play out? um, First, like one is working directly and now transitioning the thing that you're talking about. So this question I will just put it out in the chat also for everyone to read.
So the basic principle of a catalyst is that I hope everyone understands it, but is that whatever you're doing, your work is creating synergy and not a additive. 2 plus 2 need not be just 4. it needs to be 22 with the kind of energy, with the kind of work that is coming together. And as a catalyst, then it is about igniting that energy and work. So my role that I have taken up as in the capacity either as a trust, it's just a designation, right? Board member, founder, board member, trustee, and whatever the thing is. But ultimately, the work is that I carry with me, because of my experience, a certain social capital, right? And that social capital is and should not be just restricted to my benefit, right? I mean, it is not just for me. It is for people to gain from, whether personally, there are certain kinds of interactions which are for one's own personal development or professional development or organizational development, right? So you meet so many people, you develop relationships with them. And those relationships are developed not because I'm going to gain something out of those relationships, but because you're interested in them. So if that is your philosophy, then you have a huge social capital, right? So then you tap on that social capital to support the cause and the purpose of different organizations that you're associated with, directly or indirectly, right? And that's also like an example is this whole conversation that I'm holding. Nihal doesn't need to bring me on board, except that if there is an agenda in terms of, okay, more people coming in talking about experiences, that experiences counts, right? What is my take in it, right? What do I gain out of it on Saturday evening, which is my off day? And what will I get? Obviously, I'll get something out of it, right? I'll get an opportunity to interact, know, uh, sometime, anytime we get an opportunity, I'll know, oh, OMLAS Fellows exist and this is the great work that they're doing. And then if I know somebody who's interested, then I tell them about this. Or if I meet and know a little bit more, then I sort of get more. So that's the role actually as a catalyst that sort of I see my role as, and just ignite and inspire and uh, make people feel supported. That's all.
Thank you. In all the work you have done, what has been your single most takeaway for yourself? And what is it that you tell us, like, as not just us, but all young people in general? Um, yeah,
Um, about 10 years back, this question would have been difficult. In fact, about 3-4 years back, also this question would have been difficult for me because I would not have processed it. With reflection and your work, this becomes slightly easy. I think for me, there's only one major takeaway, and this is going to be a complex because Nihal asked me to write one takeaway, share one takeaway. So therefore, I will make it as complex sentence as possible because it is as nuanced. I believe that for me or for anyone else, any work that is done needs to be based on certain values. And those values are not intellectual understanding of values. We don't say that this is what we stand for. It is actually embodiment of those values. You manifest, you demonstrate those values. And those values are not just for yourself, but they're also for others. So for example, I am a firm believer of that. I feel that full potential is something, full potential and dignity are the two values that are very close to me. And I see myself working towards it. But I also apply that values for others around me as well. So to unpack it for anyone else, for any young person, you may work for any values, right? You might be like working for justice, inclusion, love, whatever value that you stand for. It can't be just limited to yourself or your community. It is for everyone. And the moment that penny drops, any work that you do will connect you, and you will inspire other people, because actually action, the kind of things that you demonstrate inspires people. I can just say something and get away, but that is not going, I mean, people for temporary thing, you might just get inspired, बहुत अच्छा बोल दिया. कई बार बहुत अच्छा बोलने वाला, sorry, I fling, it's went into Hindi, but in terms of that, just being a good speaker is not everything. Your work should also be able to demonstrate what you are and who you are. So that's my mantra. Whatever you do, just live your values, and not just for yourself, for even that marginalized who may be very different from you, who may be somebody in community may not be connected to you, but you still consider living that value, and that parameter is also for that person. That's it. And one message for my younger self, stay grounded and be humble.
Thank you so much, Naghma. I mean, the way you've shared your journey, I'm still in that conversation which we had uh, a long time ago, but I don't even know if you remember, but you were my brigadier back in ISDM, and that time uh, it was so chaotic, working in groups and having no idea like what what to do, or like how to get to a common decision, and you would step in and just observe us and then go away. Like this happened for a couple of days, and then I think you said a few words once, and then we were like, yeah, I mean, the fact that, like, I mean, we had a bricklayer. What I'm trying to say is we had someone there, like, with us, that orbital role that you're talking about. I mean, having that support system, like, whether it's how much time you're investing and how much you're talking or helping out, or not helping out at all, but just being there. I think that itself is a very important part of how, like, it kind of gives us a mirror to reflect on what we are working on and thinking and moving forward. So I just want to thank you for that. And I think when you said this, it just amplifies to a bigger picture when you look at the sector now, the organizations, and you and a lot of people coming, having that catalyst role now, and just being there, supporting in every way possible. I think that is something that needs due credit. And yeah, that is all I have to say. Right now, we do have time for questions. So I'd like to like Gayatri and Shavni also to take over now. And yeah, thank you so much for my.
Thank you, Nehal. I mean, people should not feel burdened by that we have opened up the floor for question and answers, but it's always nice to hear, even if it is that what kind of work that you are um, doing, that also is, yeah, Aishwarya.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much. Like your journey is really inspiring.
You
So,
can
like,
call me
I'm
Naghma,
sure.
huh? We don't work with the.
Okay, Dharma. Yes, that works. Thank you. Yeah. So, my question is like, it's been a long journey for you, and in this journey, there might have been various setbacks. So, what motivated you to keep going? Like, other than the purpose itself, what else? Because there are times, right, when you start questioning that, maybe this purpose is not worth it. Maybe, it won't go through. So what motivated you to keep going?
Um, almost a lot of times, right? I mean, unless and until you don't feel that low, you don't appreciate the highs. For me personally, I think I'm a I'm a regular kind of person. So the lows really hit the lows. You feel like, kya kar rahe hain? What is it that one is doing, right? I mean, this whole, uh, the work that you do, especially when you're working with young people, it's frustrating as well, because you sort of can see that this is not really cutting it. You have classrooms, and I mean, I'm talking about right now, but otherwise also that you know what people are going through. Why can't you just get it? Just trust the flow. But they don't get it, right? Uh, when you're working with an organization and an ecosystem, you have to fight out. So you start feeling that, okay, the students are not listening, the leadership is not listening, you're stuck in the middle, and you're the only one, right? You go home, you take a deep breath, you feel sad, you feel bad, and then you sleep over it. Right? That's what I do. Because ultimately, if I have to cry, I cry. I need to get that emotional outburst, because then that's an emotion at it, that at that moment, that emotion also needs to be acknowledged. And then you get up in terms of, why the hell am I doing it? And then the answer comes to you, right? It is because at the end of the day, others may not get it, but you get it. Others may not change, but you are responsible for your own change. So I am responsible for my own actions. That helps me handle my own challenges. I can share, inspire, but I can make you work, or I can't make you. Why don't you get it? It will come at its own time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for thank you, Naghma. Thank you for sharing.
So we're almost at time, but I do want to say thank you, Nihal. This is what gives me energy, right? Interacting, I feel like, oh, so many young people, and just gets me excited, right? Poonam is my colleague. She's out there in solidarity, but the this is, Nihal is a student, so I mean, student always remain the student. Now colleagues, obviously, but this gives me energy to stay on course. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I mean, thanks to you, and just like taking, not thinking of like both Naghma, and just a small story for everyone. Both Naghma and Basanta Ju, like for for all the responsibilities and the ongoing life they are leading, just reaching out to them kind of like didn't make me um it was kind of like I had to think a lot. But when I asked them to invited them over to come, they didn't think for a second. They were just like, yeah, let's do this. So yeah, I really want to be that person someday, like who can make up time for people, like without I mean, I don't know what's the thought process behind, but when you said it gives you energy, I think that is it for us. So yeah. Um, Shavni, Gayatri, would you like to introduce Basanta Ju? Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Nagma ma'am, to describe all your journeys. Somewhere we all can relate because we are looking forward. Am I audible? Because my networks.
Yes, you're audible, Gayatri. Try turning off your camera if you are facing any issue. That's fine with us.
Yeah. Okay. So I was saying that somewhere we all could relate because we are somewhere at stepping stone of working in development sector itself. And I could relate a lot when you were saying that you are kind of a regular person, and whenever somewhere lower phase hits, it really hits hard because we all want to just move forward and we want to learn, but sometimes it's very, taking break is kind of a stereotype, or I don't know what, but I myself am not able to make peace with much of it. I just wanted to know one thing. I wanted to get inspired from your story only out of this, that when you mentioned that one should never stop investing in their education. So sometimes what happens is, like, we might get a good opportunity in what we want to work in. So like I did, I worked in Northeast for 2 years, the previous 2 years. But now I am again coming back to, education field because I just completed graduation and started working. But I want to get back to education and invest in my education part, but it's becoming kind of overwhelming. right now, whether I should work, because somewhere I want to be on field working at development sector itself, and I think that I have a lot to learn first. So yeah.
So, Gayatri, I know that I'm meeting into Basanta's time, but just one correction. Education is not like academic education. Learning is,
Yeah.
right? You you decide for yourself what's feasible. For some people, education, like informal education, is
Mm-hmm.
possible. You take it. If it's not, then age is not a barrier, right? People go back to academics when they're 30, 40, it doesn't matter. And learning is ongoing, right? So when I'm saying that in terms of, for me, that was easy and feasible. For some people, may not be, but that is not that one is better than the other, right? But
Right, right.
lifelong learning is essential. That's the only my two piece to it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Any of our champions who have any question from her?
I think what I can do is if you have any questions, you can put it on chat. I can respond on chat. And I'd also
Right.
like to listen into Basanta.
I have one.
Nehal, please take over.
I have one things to ask from Naghma.
Okay, Vijay. Is it okay if you can ask and then I can respond on the chat if that's okay?
Yes, Vijay, please write your question in the chat box because we are running out of time and Basanta sir is here, our next speaker, and definitely you will enjoy listening to him as well.
Works, fine.
No issue. Or if the lively discussion continues, whatever it works well. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Shavni, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Nehal. So let me just give a brief about Basanta sir. So he has been working for 32 years with International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, that is ICIMOD, and he has served as a director as strategic cooperation. He is working as a co-founder as a Mountain Environment and Resources Information System, that is MENRIS program. So I'm really looking forward for you all to listen to him. So over to you, sir. You can share your screen now.
Thank you. Thank you. It was lovely to listen to Naghma. As she says, at this juncture of my life, after fresh retirement, any opportunity that I get with interaction with the young people, that's energizer. That's a booster for me. So it's absolutely pleasure to interact with you all. Let me share my stories with couple of slides here. I will scan through. Um, is um, the screen is okay.
Yes, sir. Screen is visible. Just can you just
Yeah,
click on the presentation mode? Yeah.
yeah, it's on a presentation mode. Yeah, thank you. I'm sharing my journey more than 3 decades with ICIMOD, unlike Naghma with different experiences with a different organization. I entered into ICIMOD and that was it. Believe me, that's my first job and last job. Um, um, Many times my daughter asked me sometime after retirement, how come that you stay with 32 years with one organization? You know, sometimes young people, they have hard to relate to. And I often tell them that I fell in love with the CMOD, you know. So my journey in some way resonates with my passion and love for the mountains. Secondly, my passion and love for the technology and innovation. So I'm with that academic discipline, and I am a firm believer that technology is key driver for human progress. And third is, as I grew up with my professional career, that sustainability or the sustainability science is underpinning many things that we do. So initial with my career, that as Sravani was mentioning, that Mendes program at ICIMOD, that my initial 20 years during 1990, I joined ICIMOD in 1990. It's about, again, the technology, the booming of personal computing, and also the GIS program, remote sensing program, and others. So I was instrumental in terms of establishing this program and giving capacity, building capacity of different partner countries in the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region and so forth. So that's one part of his story. So I'm not focusing on that so much. But during the course of that, I had also fortune to interact with some of the cutting-edge science organizations, namely NASA and many universities, top-notch universities, and many space industries in the region, including ISRO and NRSA in Andhra, Hyderabad, and others. So something called the Servir Himalaya program, that I will dwell with my story a little bit on that. After almost 20 plus years in this domain, then I moved up to a more of a management position, Director of Strategic Cooperation at ICIMOD, which is a leadership position, and my main portfolio was towards partnership development, institutional development, as well as the growth management per se and others. I will also touch base briefly on some flagship program that I had done during my professional career, 2015 earthquake, and also the response to that. Now I'm more on, on a more kind of a holistic kind of a living, eco-conscious living. I built my own mud house, and I will share one or two slides on that as well. And I had the opportunity to share top program before with OMLAS Fellows. Maybe some of you, you may have already heard. As my current role, post retirement, I am not in the regular job, but more importantly, more voluntarily basis, that I serve as a senior advisor and mentor, and especially empowering youth, primarily from technology and innovation point of view. So any opportunity I get, so when they had approached me, why not to give a talk program about your journey and other things? So I jumped in and I said, okay, so I'm here now. And just to tell about my background, before I started my career at ICIMOD, perhaps I was as young as many of you OMLAS Fellows here. I come from a very hard engineering background. My background from that time REC Trichulapalli in India, electrical and electronics engineering background in South India. And then followed up with my master's computer engineering in Asian Institute of Technology in Bangkok. So I come from a very hard engineering background, and entire 32 years of my career, I'm completely transformed with sustainable development practices, inclusive development, gender mainstreaming, and you name it, all social side, economic side, and so I think I became more holistic, and I also got the opportunity to interact with the other world other than the hard engineering. Like, if some of you are engineers, like microprocessors, circuits, and others, whole system engineering and other sides, but more from the social engineering aspects, more from the sustainable science aspects, and so forth. Now, through this story, I also would like to introduce, perhaps we live in the Indian subcontinent, and mountains, and why mountains are important. What you are seeing, this picture is a picture from the space, Hindu-Kush Himalayan region, all the way from Afghanistan to Myanmar in the east. And this is not only a fantastic or exotic or spectacular region in the world. This is also is a global asset, or in a very layman term, that this is the largest infrastructure bestowed by Mother Nature to store food, energy, water, carbon, biological diversity, and others. Most often that when you talk about the mountains, mountains are for tourism, for some tourist destination, these attraction, and often the beauty and also the importance of mountains are not understood in a common language and others. So mountains are essentially is a life support system. And if you look at the Indian subcontinent, that almost one fourth of humanity live downstream, and they depend upon the ecosystem goods and services provided by this mountain. And so these mountains are very, very important from that point of view. So my love for mountain and my work, my journey, my passion has really infused me there. Just to introduce, ICIMOD is the regional intergovernmental organization. India is also founding member. We have 8 countries. I'll not go into detail, but it is more from the knowledge center. Technology, innovation, science is a key facets of ICIMOD to influence policies, to influence practices, towards sustainable mountain development at the national, regional, and the local level. Now, if you look at the whole mountains, and my travel all across my professional career from Afghanistan to Myanmar, there are drivers of change, climate change, demographic change, not only population growth, but also the whole migration issues, land use, land cover change, and not to mention the globalization and the social change that we have influenced with. All these changes has given rise to, if you look at from the sustainability angle, if you look at from more from the environmental angle, we are in a crisis situation, and many reports and many international forums debate about this climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, pollution crisis, and others. So my journey towards this in terms of addressing some of these larger issues, so to speak, is more from the digital technology and innovation. And if you see from over the last 3-4 decades that we are in a constant revolution or the kind of a transformation that we see from the digital technologies and innovation. And perhaps that this digital innovation and technologies are also key impetus, in my belief, is towards the sustainability transition. So how we can use this technology and tools to address some of these bigger challenges. I will not go into details. Again, these are more from the climate change impact in the Hindu-Kush Himalayan region, rapid melting of glaciers, erratic rainfall patterns, increasing frequency and severity and magnitude of disasters that we all hear about, transboundary air pollution, issues of black carbon and others, loss of biodiversity and agricultural productivity, and so much so that rapid migration and the feminization of the mountains that we see, Just to give you a picture, this is a 2009 picture of the glaciers in the Himalayas. And I have been involved using remote sensing to study the changes of the glaciers and others, that if you see ICIMOD websites, you will see many of these changes. And this is the 2009 picture, so almost 90 years difference of pictures. So you would see this sort of a startling changes in the glaciers, snow, and there has been recent report that has come out, and this has given rise to water security. If you look at this whole region, that these are the water tower of Asia, these are the key sustenance of human civilization, environmental services, and also our drinking and the industrial purposes and other things. So again, we are in a peak monsoon season here. I'm just looking outside, and it has been a drastic rain in Katmandu yesterday, today, and a lot of floods, But we are seeing the increasing change in the variability of this rainfall patterns. And as a result, our whole food basket, that we consider Indian subcontinent that are enormously facing challenges, and due to climate change, we see sometimes too much water and sometimes too little water. And this is a map of our population density, just to underscore that, so these all dark brown areas are the population density. Almost 2 billion population resides in this subcontinent. And also this landmass and agriculture has been a key elements for agriculture and food security. So I'm just painting some of the bigger picture. So again, increasing frequency and magnitude of disasters, whether you talk about Uttarakhand floods or you talk about Kedarnath floods and other things, that we have seeing increasing magnitude of these floods and disasters, whether it is in Pakistan and now we are in the midst of monsoon. So monsoon is both blessing and a curse, blessing in the sense that we depend upon the agricultural economy and agriculture is dependent upon the monsoon rain. But on the other hand, we have this intensity of a rain that causes a lot of casualties in terms of lives and livelihoods, security, and others. Now, these are some of the bigger challenges. Again, in the biodiversity, I'll not go into detail, that if you look at the global report, there are significant losses of our biodiversity, and we are facing the crisis level in terms of biodiversity loss. Again, with the air pollution, we are in a city like Katmandu and also in Delhi, and most often, sometimes once in the winter period, that November, December, we often hear even the schools are closed due to air pollution. Schools are closed in Kathmandu over the last 2 years, I think, due to very, very bad air pollution. And we hear such stories from India, Delhi, and also from China and many big cities, So these have impact on human health and also largely on our agricultural system. Now, given this background context, these are some of the larger issues. So we partner with NASA and USAID, something called program called Servir. And servir is not acronym, but it is a Spanish word. The Spanish word is to serve, And being a NASA, being a cutting edge technology and a science institution, they would like to see how this technology can be used in a development world. That's where the USAID comes in, So NASA, USAID, ICIMOD kind of a partnership. That's why we are saying, and there's a punchline called connecting space to village, How can we really connect space technology and application to villages? So my role has been mainly from the technology and innovation point of view, how we can support informed decision making towards many of these issues which I have touched upon earlier. Now, when we say about space technology and application, mostly people think about space station and space exploration. Of course, that is one part. Space exploration, with all the telescope and James Webb telescope and others, I think we have much more closer to knowing about the whole universe, and also a more philosophical question about who we are and others, So the space exploration, and there has been a tremendous progress on the space exploration over the last 2-3 decades. And you hear a lot of this documentary in National Geography and also Discovery Channel and others. So these are still whole universe is a mystery, but I think we are close to knowing because of the space exploration and the technology and others. Second, I think which sometimes we use daily now with our mobile phones and others, satellite communication and navigation, whether you are using a Uber or whether you are using any sorts of application, navigation, Google Maps and others, satellite communication and navigation is at your play, and we are often ignored about. Sometimes this technology has become so much pervasive that we often ignore that this is a technology as such, and again with the satellite meteorology, even the cyclone in I don't recall exactly, in 2000, I think Odisha cyclone around 2000, I think it has killed more than tens of thousands of people, But now with this technology and early warning system, like a weather system that we hear in, whether it is in CNN, BBC, or ASTA, we hear the weather reporting almost on a real-time basis in the satellite meteorology. So the kind of advancement that we see. The real discipline is more from the satellite remote sensing, Earth observation, utilizing many of these satellite resources to understand Earth and how we can use this massive amount of information for decision making. That has been the main forte of my discipline and my program and my journey in terms of technology and innovation. I should also mention here that many of you are from India. India has been a key leader in space science and technology. And also, if you look at indigenous kind of space science, and India is indigenous kind of a technology, India is a leader on that front. And from Vikram Sarabhai to your former President Abdul Kalam and others are some of the key personalities that has propelled, in terms of advancing this space technology and others, and it has influenced virtually everything that we do today in our society in one way or the other. So I just wanted to bring this perspective. So I was instrumental in terms of bringing this technology to ICIMOD, and here the second next to me is a NASA administrator himself. So he was in Katmandu during the launch of this program, along with your that time Jairam Ramesh, Environment Minister, and many others. So I just want to in my good memory and some of the milestone in terms of my professional career. So Servir Himalaya connecting to space and village. So we deal with many of these issues, and how we deal with these issues is because this technology provides improved access to data, models, and tools for informed decision making. So this program also is engaged in terms of capacity building of partners and youths, providing information services, and also ICIMODs as a regional organization in terms of fostering regional cooperation. Just to give you some example, this is again using space technology, and this is for a country for Bhutan. So this is 54-hour outlook in terms of flood outlook and some of the satellite meteorology, so that this can provide you some of the river flow and the discharge system in different streams and the river systems here. This is Prokop Alert app, just recently released with a Red Cross and ICIMOD. So you can also get more information with Servir Himalaya website at ICIMOD. So Prokop means it's a disaster, so disaster alert app. So in terms of floods and others disasters, so it provides that sort of. So how we can use space technology to connect with. This is a community-based early warning system using wireless sensors network and many of other satellite-based technology to provide community, and we have implemented this in many different countries. Sometime with the climate change, we talk about floods, and this is flood season, but drought is another dimension we are facing in many parts of the Himalaya, and we are using satellite technology to look at the drought and how we can address some of the impending challenges from this. I'll just quickly run through in the interest of time. And these are also some mobile app application in Bangladesh. We are working with some of the national partners on air pollution side. We have use satellite-based technology, and also working with the brick clean to transform into a more cleaner kind of a production and more kind of a innovation in a technology, so that there are less environmental pollution and others. And we have a network of this brick clean work around the Hindu-Kush-Himalayan region. Now, talking about OMLAS, I have also been engaged in terms of focusing on youth, and I really believe that youth are the change agent for change, and any programs that does not include youth, I feel this is fairly incomplete in one way or the other. So doing my career entire ICIMOD in a more than 3 decades, my interaction, my journey has been also empowering youth, and this has also given me tremendous joy and satisfaction in my work. Also, many of you, maybe this is also an announcement, empowering women in GIT. They also run a course, and they are inviting participants for 1-week training course. So if some of OMLAS fellows are interested in GIT, women in GIT, and these are especially for young women, you may also apply in that. Now, given this, my outlook, if I reflect back with 3 decades of my journey with ICIMOD, starting 1990, we are at the helm of 4th industrial revolution. If you look at 1980, this has been a decade of personal computing. If you look at 1990, it has been a decade of internet, the propagation of internet, World Wide Web, and others. If you look at 2000, I think it's social media and other things have taken into, quite gaps in our society, and also tremendous transfusion of these technologies to a wider public and wider mass. 2010, more from the big data, IoT, unmanned air vehicle, and many others. Now, if you look at 2020, I think this has been a AI era, and I would like to also emphasize here with AI has been such an emerging technology, so it can be as like electricity, which is it can become so pervasive that it is referred as a general purpose technology, and it can be used in many of different aspects of our society and our work. And so we are in really at the helm of AI revolution, and nobody knows for sure that how it will take shape in future, but certainly my message to youth is, I think, getting acquainted with AI and also some of these potential tools would be very much handy as we progress forward. I also believe that AI is evolving as a great equalizing force. The whole mobile technology, has been also in many sense that whether you are a billionaire or you are a common man in the street with it has been a fairly accessible in terms of what information you access, whether It's not only haves or have-nots, but it has really become an equalizing force in many different aspects. And also, when we talk about technology, these are also developed countries versus the developing countries. And I believe AI and this technological progression is also coming up as a great equalizing force, bringing equity in our society in terms of access and others. My last point with AI, perhaps I can give a different talk in AI altogether, but from personal computer to personal assistant, what we hear about the co-assistants and the co-pilot with Microsoft and others. So we are seeing in the era of intelligent machines and with the robotics, with the AI, I think this role is getting transformed in many different directions, and we need to be cognizant of this development. A couple of slides in my professional journey, which I have also, I shouldn't say, it has been a painful reminder. 2015, the earthquake, as you may know, almost 10,000 lives that has taken, and many infrastructure that has destroyed, and also environment. So I had also privilege to work with one of the reconstruction project, which is community-centric reconstruction project, using some of the environmental consideration and the sustainability. So mobilizing local youth and women and community to build their homes, and these are underprivileged kind of people. So before and after, these are fairly modest home that we had a budget of about $3,000 to make one house. So this using some of the innovative technology with compressed mud block, and some of the local materials that we have been able to revive these houses in earthquake reconstruction site, which is not too far from Kathmandu. It is about 70 kilometers west from Kathmandu. As a result, that using this technology and innovation to provide response and recovery, we had also gotten humanitarian GIS award. This was presented in San Diego amidst 15,000 crowd in a ESRI user conference. So this has been also one of the highlight of my career in terms of using science and technology, and especially GIS and remote sensing to disaster response and recovery. That's some milestone and some highlights about my story. My love for mountains, my love for technology and innovation to drive progress, and to look at some of the larger sustainability kind of issue. And I think there are different stories, different messages to take on, and I'm very inspired by the quote by if you cannot change the world, be the change you want to see in the world. So post-earthquake, that I have also learned many things about building technology and what sort of sustainable living practices and others. So inspired by nature and my own traditional Nepali architecture, so I built my mud house. I'm speaking from this mud house right now here. So this is blended with Newari culture. I'm Newar, ethnic Newar from Kathmandu, and this is built using locally sourced and reused materials, and this is designed with eco-friendly and climate responsive design. I recently had a student who did a research, and inside and outside temperature is almost 6 to 7 degrees Celsius different. So this is more from the energy conservation point of view and others. We don't need AC and fan in this house, and Kathmandu being a moderate climate, so that helps as well. So I've been promoting this sort of technology to different other clienteles, and I'm very pleased to say that there are 25 new houses are being built using these technologies and so forth. So looking at all the concrete jungles, sometimes I feel that there are technologies and traditional know-how which are more efficient, and also if we bring that to a scale, and that can be also cost effective as well. I also practice sustainable farming, and 80% of my vegetable comes from my farm itself. So I had also talked about this earlier. And I branded this as a Hamro Matogar. So I just would like to end by saying that thank you very much for your kind attention. Namaste. And if there are any questions or interactions, I would love to hear and interact with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It's like whenever we see these pictures, we would like to, it's like we want to come there and visit your house at least once a year, at least like that we were like thinking. So there is one question from one of the champions. So Satyam is asking how women are more susceptible to disaster than men.
Yeah, women are now, there are always this in our society gender kind of a segregation, and if I may use some sort of discrimination, though we are becoming more conscious and more kind of aware. Uh, like many of men, just to give an example, some men are sometimes going abroad, and if you look at from Nepal situation, many of them are in Gulf countries, and many of them have um, for their livelihood traveling abroad, and women and children are mostly, they are inside the houses or doing their agricultural field and other things. That also makes more vulnerable from that point of view. And also using technology these days, you see there are a lot of disaster that happens, and I was looking at my mobile, and I was getting a disaster alert that one stream nearby my house could be flooded. So is asking me to be alert. Now, if you look at the digital literacy and the penetration between men and women, and there are also a startling difference in Nepal and perhaps in a rural India, and also in a developing countries in a rural side, between men and women. So not being able to use these devices and this kind of technology, and that also makes them more vulnerable. Also, the other way is access to knowledge in terms of literacy and others. So there are a number of factors, social, technology, and also education kind of aspects. Women be more vulnerable than men.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Satyam, hope that answers your question. If any other champions would like to unmute themselves and ask the question to sir, it's a great opportunity to have one-on-one interaction with sir. So please do unmute yourself and ask the question. Otherwise, you can just type in chat box as well. We can just ask the question, not an issue. Sir, till somebody asked the question, I myself have this question.
Sure.
Apart from this, the earthquake which you already talked about, apart from that, what was the turning point for you to, just start working in this sustainable area where you are growing your own vegetables, you are living in this house which is made out of mud or clay. So, what was the turning point for you, sir?
One is like, I have been also in a climate change, and I cannot be denial here, and with ICIMOD, we did our best. But it's not only technology and innovation. It's a complex issues, and there are a lot of complexities that gets interconnected, also including geopolitics and other. And despite of all the efforts, despite of all the awareness and the campaign and others, climate change issue is not going down. If you look at emission, if you look at other kind of challenges, in fact, climate change has risen to up to a climate crisis level. So sometimes you have also your own frustration and others. In every profession there are ups and downs, and you want to change the world, and you want to bring down the emission, you want to work on the adaptation and others, but still people are suffering, people are dying, there are more disasters that are happening, and sometimes these are beyond the control, and beyond the control of even one organization or even nation or even nation coming together, And while working with earthquake response, that I had a very intimate kind of intensity working with the community and working with the women and children, to revive their houses, and the kind of energy you had seen, and the kind of joy and satisfaction that you see in their face, they are almost in a disgruntled stage with everything they have lost, with their even very their shelter and others. So getting this shelter back and getting their livelihood back, and I was looking more from the holistic perspective. And during that time, I had a lot of research. I had also time to do a lot of research in terms of what is sustainable construction, what is sustainable use of materials, what are the local use of materials and others. So during such process that I had the opportunity to do, research and also interact with many different professionals, not only from Nepal, but from the region and others, including down to earth. So this house, mud house, and there is a 10-minute YouTube video in down to earth as well. Then I said, if I cannot change the world, so I was reaching my almost end of my professional career. So let me build my own dream house. So that is what inspired me to go on. And I thought that if it can inspire others, that's also well and good. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Looking at the time, there is one last question from Champion. So Priyanka wanted to ask, are there any insights on how to replicate these different models in our other developing countries?
Yeah, this is Ramrod House is in fact is one of the oldest technology in a building construction, and in India also there are quite a few, in fact, and in many other parts, and these are robust. These are can be sourced from the local made materials, but it's a question of again doing research, and you can replicate in a sense that you cannot replicate everything as it is, but you need to customize based on what sort of materials you can get. For instance, I don't know, I have a bamboo curtain here. I can show with my camera here. So I use a bamboo curtain here, So this is a based on material. So the key point here was with two philosophy I built. One is living with nature. Second is with made in Nepal, locally sourced materials, so that it helps the local people and local businesses and others. So my key theme is to promote the local economy and also living with nature concept, because the nature provides such an abundance, and we have sometimes forgotten this rich knowledge, rich heritage. And this is a heritage by itself, and in Indian subcontinent, our wisdom, ancient wisdom and other things, So sometimes we have lost all these things. So I'm trying to do it in a humble scale in my own personal capacity. So I'm enjoying and I'm having a joyful time here in some way. And I'm glad that many students come and do a tour around and there are also 20, 25 houses. They have design, come up with design, and they are building these houses and so forth. So I'm happy to inspire any other young colleagues or any other builders also. I have invited many builders and others. And don't make the concrete jungle, you also try natural building, and also perhaps that might be cost effective in many different ways. Yeah.
Very true, sir. It was really inspiring to listen from both of you, you as well as Naghma ma'am. So we have a tradition at OMLAS, sir. You already know this. So we, at the end, we would like to ask all the champions, all the participants who are present here to just switch on their camera and let's just click a beautiful picture with beautiful smiles to just end this session. So I would like to ask everybody to please turn on their cameras. Those who are not able to turn on their cameras, please give some kind of reaction so that it will be an interactive. Okay, I'm clicking a photograph. 1, 2, 3, smile.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you, and enjoyed listening to Naghma, and also enjoyed having this conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Basanta, sir. I mean, it was same, likewise. It was great, informative, and thank you for the opportunity, the OMLAS Fellows.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.